I wish I could give you more light here.
Hi, I'm Preston Williams, and welcome to another edition of Jazz Talk. Today on our show, we have with us a fantastic musician. This gentleman has been on the scene for over 35 years and has worked with many greats from Art Blakey to Dexter Gordon, Elvin Jones, Roy Hardgrove, and yes, McCoy Tyner. He is a bassist, composer, educator, and visual artist. Please welcome to Jazz Talk, Mr. Gerald Cannon. Brother, how you doing?
Very good, Preston. How are you?
Man, it's so good to have you on. Thank you so much again for doing this interview. You know, Gerald, you've been on the scene, as I said, for quite a while, man, and you've worked with a lot of, jazz giants. But I understand I believe you're from Racine, Wisconsin?
I am from Racine, Wisconsin.
And
yes.
I'd like to know a little bit more, man, about your humble beginnings and your background and how you got involved in music. What was life coming up and what's, during that time period?
Yeah, well, first of all, I'd just like to tell everybody how grateful I am this election is over. Today.
Yes. Yes. Hey, could you keep talking? Keep talking. I just need to grab something. Keep talking. I can hear.
Okay, and hopefully things will get better. But I'm from Racine, Wisconsin, and I come from a pretty musical family. My father was a gospel guitarist and a deacon of a Baptist church.
Yeah.
And so I grew up playing in his gospel quartets as a kid.
Yeah. Well, I was about to ask you about that because I read a story where when you were 10 years old, he got you electric bass.
Yeah.
You started playing that, and then you ended up playing in his band. Wow, incredible. Yeah. And he was a guitarist himself, huh?
Guitarist and a singer, yeah. And
wow.
Me and my brother was a vocalist, and he was an actor. That was what he ended up being, God rest his soul. But we all started playing with my father's gospel quartet. My uncles were gospel singers, and they all, my dad's first group, it's called the Golden True Lights, and two of my uncles were in the band, and my dad and a few other gospel singers.
Yeah.
And, that's how I got my start.
Man, that's incredible. That's incredible. Now, during that time period, I guess when you were a teenager, honing your skills, were you playing in like local bands around the area?
I wish I could have. I rehearsed with it, but my father wouldn't let me play anywhere but in church and in our basement.
I got you.
10 till I was 18. And when I was 18, he gave me the green light, and I did my first gig in Milwaukee at the Eagles Ballroom. And it was a battle of the bands.
Wow.
And we won.
Man, that's fantastic.
We were playing all funk, Confunction, Cameo, Earth, Wind, and Fire.
Yeah.
That type of thing. Yeah.
Oh man, that's great. So you go off to college, University of Wisconsin, I believe?
Yeah, I went to the University of Wisconsin La Crosse. I was going to be a physical education teacher.
Mm-hmm. You changed your major, huh?
Yeah, because of Milt Hinton.
Yeah, I read that you met Milt Hinton, man. Gosh, what a legend. Yeah. What did he impart to you? What did you learn from him, being around someone like that, Gerald?
Well, I was only around him once. I took classical upright bass as an elective course because I needed some more credits, and I always wanted to play upright.
Right.
So I decided to just take classical bass, and my teacher saw that I had some talent. She really worked with me a lot. Her name was Linda Brewer. And she was a concert cellist.
Mm-hmm.
So she taught all the strings at that school at that time. And one day at a class, she said, there's this great bass player coming to town. Have you ever heard of him? I had never heard of him, And I said, no. And she goes like, well, I already reached out to him, and he wants to meet you. Would you like to go to the concert? I was like, yeah. So I went to the concert with her and her husband, and I sat in the front row, and I saw Milt play. The first note, I was hooked. I was like, wow, I didn't know it could be played like that.
Right.
Even though as a kid, me and my dad used to watch Ray Brown on the Merv Griffin show. Every afternoon, he was part of the house band. And I grew up listening to jazz and to gospel music and to the blues. My parents played all three in the house all the time. And And as a matter of fact, the first record, or the record that I listened to the most was Kenny Burrell's Midnight Blue.
Mm.
And Major Holly's bass just haunted me my whole youthful life. I listened to that record like crazy. And there's a tune on there called Mule, where he do these glissandos. I was like, wow.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
I couldn't do it on my electric because I had frets.
Unless you're Jaco Pastorius or somebody
Right.
like that, you
Yeah.
know.
Well,
But
he changed a little bit of that, added to it too. But when I saw Milk play, I was blown away. First of all, just the joy he presented in his playing and the way it made me felt and just the things he could do with the bass. I was like,
mhm.
I had my mouth open the whole time, you know.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
after the concert, I went backstage into his dressing room and we talked, you know. And he had me play a little something. And it's funny because that bass that's right behind me,
Oh, wow.
that's Milt Tinton's bass.
Get out of here. Are you serious?
I'm serious. I'm here at
Wow.
Oakland College, and they have the Milt Tinton Institute here. So
Wow.
Milt's wife donated his basses to the school, and so I have his bass in my office. I get to play it every day.
Man,
And it's,
wow. That's incredible, man. Man,
it's
what a
funny how it
giant.
works, huh? Yeah.
Gosh, that blows me away. Hey, did you ever get a chance? I guess I think he's still living, and he was around in that area. Bassist Richard Davis, you know
Yeah.
him too? Yeah,
Yeah. 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 I know. Yeah. He's still around. He's in Madison, Wisconsin.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. I
He's up
never,
there. I think he's like in his 90s now, like 90 or 91. Yeah,
yeah. 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 I never got a chance to get a lesson with him, but I've talked to him a few times. Sure.
man, that's fantastic. So you go through college, and hey, man, I understand that you're also a visual artist. You paint too. Did you pick up a love or a talent for that in college
No, as a kid.
as a
Well,
kid? Okay.
those were my two outlets, and I also played basketball and sports. But my real, passions were painting and drawing as a kid, and
Yeah.
playing my electric bass. I spent most of my time in my basement with that Fender my dad bought me, and I started really checking out art as a kid. Just it was just fun, and while I was in school, after I left lacrosse, I went to the Wisconsin Conservatory of Music. 'Cause,
Mm-hmm.
um, from Milt's suggestion. He heard me play and he said, boy, you need to go to a music school. I was like,
Mm.
really? He's like, yeah.
Wow.
I was like, wow. I didn't think I sounded that good on double bass at the time. I didn't know what I was doing. I was just playing stuff.
Yeah.
And so, and I called my dad the next day and said, Dad, at the end of the semester, I'm gonna apply for the Wisconsin Conservatory of Music.
Mm.
He wasn't that happy to hear that. At least he was acting like he wasn't that happy to hear that. I think he did that because he knew that I would try even harder just to prove him wrong, which he was right.
Mm-hmm.
After the summer break, the next semester, I was walking up the steps to the Wisconsin Conservatory of Music for my audition.
Mm.
And I got in, and here I am now.
Man, that's great. That is incredible. Yeah, like I said, and just earlier in your life, meeting someone like Milt Hinton, man, that was probably life changing for you. Now, I understand in your mid 20s, I guess when you're like 28, 29, you moved to New York. And man, you start playing with all these incredible musicians that are on the scene. One of the things that got me, how in the world did you hook up with Art Blakey, man?
It's one of those things that happen when you live in New York.
Yeah.
You just never know, the phone rings, and it's still that way. You never know who's on the other end. But I think that how that really happened was when I came to New York, I started working in the after hours band at the Blue Note, the jam
Yeah.
session with Justin Robinson and Rodney Kendrick, Bernard Harper,
Yeah, drummer Bernard Harper. Yeah.
Philip Harper, yeah, and all those young cats, and my name started spreading around a little bit. And if I remember correctly, Javon Jackson recommended me for the gig.
Yeah.
With Art Blakey, and it was an interesting time in my life. Musically I was ready, but mentally I was just, I wasn't really quite prepared for that gig. So it didn't last long. I didn't stay on it long, but I learned a lot in the few gigs I did.
Fantastic. Wow. And also, man, you played with Dexter Gordon too. Man, what was that
Yeah.
like?
That well, it wasn't many gigs either. It was only a couple of gigs, but it was during that same era um, where I had to get myself together. And musically, I think I was ready, like I said, but mentally, I was just overwhelmed. I mean, and so, after I played with Dexter, I went home, back home to Wisconsin for 2 years. Plus,
Mhm.
I was married and separated from my wife,
Right.
had 2 kids. A lot of that kind of thing was going on then, So I
Mm.
needed to clean up some things, to do some soul searching, and to bring some more spirituality back into my life. A lot of things like that. So I went
Yeah.
home for 2 years and did that. And in the 2 years I was home, I got myself together, and I started teaching at the conservatory where I went to school, and got everything lined up. And I came back. I've been back since, except to visit.
Man, that's fantastic. Yeah. Now I was reading a story. I think you were in a club or you were playing or something one night, and you met Roy Hardgrove, and then you guys ended up having this long, 7-year association.
Yeah,
Man, what was it like working with Roy, the late Roy
best band
Hardgrove?
I ever played in. But hands down, the best band uh, I ever played in as a
Wow.
band. You
Wow.
know, first of all, I owe Roy so much. He's my little brother.
Yeah.
I mean, when I came back to New York um, after being gone for 2 years, you start all the way over. You leave New York, when you come back, you got to start from the beginning and work your way
Right.
all the way back up. But I had met Roy while I was back home in Milwaukee. He was doing a concert, and he came to one of my gigs after his concert. Roy, just to play, and we played, and we talked, and I told him, look, man, I'll be back. I'm coming back to New York about 6 months. He's like, man, look me up when you come back. So naturally, I did. I saw him at Bradley's. I was hanging out in Bradley's, and I said, hey, Roy, I'm back. And, Roy being Roy, like, oh, that's good, and walked away. I was like, wow. So I ran. I said, hey, man, you told me to call you, let you know when I'm back. I said, okay. I'll call you, man, if I want to. And then I saw him again in Bradley's, and I happened to be on a gig at that time.
Mhm.
And I walked up to him and I said, look, but you said you were going to call me. You're like, man, I'll call you. Man, you sound great, but I'm going to call you. I was like, okay. And the next year enough, a couple of weeks later, his manager called and asked me if I was available to do a gig in Pennsylvania somewhere. And I said, yeah. And that started off our long career, and it was just, we were a band, and we were brothers, and we were hard on each other, and Roy was the band leader, and we respected him, but we were all men, like,
Mm.
grown-ups,
Yeah.
and we just played hard every night. And when Larry Willis got in the band, that just,
Larry Willis. Wow. Yeah. Man, I tell you, yeah, Roy was interesting. I heard Herbie Hancock say Roy Hardgrove was, without question, the best trumpeter of his generation.
yeah.
What a talent, man! And like I said, we lost him too soon. Now, you played with him, and you also hooked up with one of the greatest drummers of all time, Elvin Jones. Man, what was it like playing with Mr. Polyrhythmic King himself?
Well, that was like going back to school at 40 something years old.
Yeah.
Man, it's interesting. I thought I could really play. Well, I thought I was pretty good, but I really learned how to play with Elvin, what my role was as a bassist, and how to stand on my own 2 feet,
Mm,
and how to, like, you know make the rhythm section work. You know, and I really learned how much drums and piano really depend on the bass to
yeah.
keep things centered.
Yeah.
Working with Elvin, because Elvin, the first year with Elvin, after every gig, I would go either home or in my hotel room and lay in the bathtub and look at the ceiling, soaking my aching bones, asking myself, what the hell just happened to me?
Man.
Because his force was incredible. You know,
Yeah.
everybody had this big myth about Elvin was loud. He was not loud. I played 8 or 9 years with Elvin with never using an amp or a monitor, only just a mic in front of my bass. And I could hear myself fine.
Mm,
But the force of the momentum of his swing is what kicks your butt.
yeah. You know, it's
And
interesting, Gerald. I hear so many stories about him. I've talked to countless artists who saw that band with McCoy, you know, Coltrane and those cats back then, Jimmy Garrison, and they just said that band would just put you in a trance. I mean, it was just
yeah,
incredible. And some musicians, I had Charles Tolliver on. He says, I've never seen anything like it before
yeah.
or since. You know, the band was something else. But the individual I want to get to, who's probably my all-time favorite pianist, and we just lost him this year, the great McCoy Tyner. Man, what was it like playing with him? How did you get to work with the McCoy? And I think when I saw you a couple times, saw you with that band with Gary Bartz, Eric Gravett. Actually, I saw you back in 2009. You guys were in Bethesda, Maryland. And I was chatting with McCoy a little bit. And I just remember you. I said, check out Gerald Cannon. I said, this brother's on point with a suit on. You were just, I mean, everything was just like you were sharp, man, and you were just playing. I said, check him out. But I remember, man, it was such a fantastic show. But tell us about McCoy Tyner, man, how he influenced you, how you hooked up with him, and man, what was that experience like? Because you're playing with one of the most important pianists of the last 60 years, and of course, you know, McCoy with his fourths and just what he did on the piano was like incredible. I have an interview. I was sharing this with some people. I have a rare TV interview with McCoy and Freddie Hubbard. And
Mm.
this interviewer asked Freddie, he said, what is it like playing with McCoy? He said, you play with Herbie Hancock, McCoy Tyner. He said, oh, both are great. He said, Herbie's creative and he plays keyboards. He said, but when it comes to the natural thing, he said, McCoy Tyner is my man. He says, playing with McCoy Tyner is like playing with three piano players.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
because the sound that he gets on the instrument, you know, before, of course, his illness and before he got sick, but if you listen to those earlier records like Sahara and Enlightenment, he was a monster on that piano, man. I mean, it's like, wow, you know. But what was it like working with him?
Well, man, what a beautiful, beautiful human being he was.
Yeah,
You know, and so was Elvin. I
yeah.
mean, those two together. I'm so blessed that I got a chance to like spend a lot of time with both of them and ask them questions about each other. You know, like when I was with Elvin, I would ask, "Hey, what's it like playing with Jimmy and McCoy?" He's like, "McCoy, that's you know." He would tell me.
You got the voice down pat, man. That sounds exactly like him.
I heard it. I heard it a lot. But then I would ask McCoy about Elvin. He was like, "Oh, Elvin was my big brother." You know,
Hmm.
they both were to be two of the greatest of all time in this genre or in music. Period. In music. Period. It doesn't matter. You know, they were very, very humble. You know, and they had a spirit. They both were very spiritual. One time, it only happened once, I got a chance to play with both of them at the same time.
Oh, wow. Is that on video? Can you watch it? Or
I wish it was. I really wish it was. I
oh,
don't think
wow,
so.
man.
It was at the San Francisco Jazz Festival,
Yeah.
and I was with Elvin. And McCoy was just there, and he came in the dressing room, and that's really the first, not the first time I've seen him, but the first time I had been introduced to him, you know. And he had the little, that's when he was wearing the little skinny mustache. He looked like
Exactly.
a
Yeah.
gangster, man. I was scared.
Yeah. I remember that. I remember
Yeah,
that.
you know, like, wow, hi, Mr. Tyner, and got out of there. So I didn't know that this was going to happen. It was me and Elvin and I forget who was on piano. Might have been Carlos McKinney, Delphio Marcellus, Pat LaBarbera, and I forget who else. But anyway, so we were playing, and then Elvin grabs the mic and announces, "We have a special treat. We're going to have McCoy Tyner come up." And McCoy came, but I didn't know, you know.
Oh,
So I was like, wow. Oh. And I thought, okay, well, cool. He's got the horn players, you know. But he asked the horn players to leave, and we played trio. 1, 2, we played Afro Blue, me, McCoy, and Elvin. Of course, I was so nervous till I forgot Afro Blue as many times, played it a million times. Right? So I forgot the first chord and first couple chords, and McCoy kind of looked at me, and he had that little mustache, and you know, And Elvin was like, it's okay, and we played it and it came back, of course.
Yeah.
And McCoy played this great solo. I was just thinking like, just stay in the middle, don't do nothing, play the
Right.
line and don't try to be show off or nothing.
Yeah. Yeah.
So McCoy played this incredible solo. And what I felt in the middle of those two was the spirit, some kind of spirit between those two, or some kind of thing, just kind of lifted me up into a whole different plane that I'd never felt before. I just
Wow.
felt free, man, like to go ahead and go for it. And it was a once in a lifetime experience. And when McCoy finished his solo, I stopped playing because I figured like I don't want a solo after that. And Elvin looked at me and said, "Play." I was like, "Oh man!" So now I got to take a solo too. But I took it, and I was still wrapped in the spirit from these two, from Elvin and McCoy, and it just came out. Some things came out of me that never came out,
Mm.
and I remember Elvin looking at McCoy going, and I was like, "Wow!" It's one of the highlights of my career.
Oh, I would say so, man.
The
And then, of
knowledge.
course, yeah, you ended up playing with him for a while. I think the last time I saw you, if I'm not mistaken, was 2016. You guys were in DC at Blues Alley, and I think you had Lewis Nash on drums.
Yeah, yeah, I
And
remember that gig.
that night, I remember seeing McCoy's son Dean was there too. And I got lucky because I was talking to Gary. Gary's like, I can't help you. I actually brought a Love Supreme, and Dean got his dad to sign that album for me. I Love Supreme. So that was special, but a fantastic show. But yeah, man, huh?
You're lucky. McCoy did not like to see. Sometimes he just didn't want to
Exactly.
sign.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Lewis Nash actually helped me with that because, Lewis is let me take care of it. So he talked to Dean and Dean had him sign it. So I was very blessed to get him to sign that. Very rare. But yeah, man, like I said, you've had quite an illustrious career. You've played with a lot of greats. And I'm interested in knowing more about you as an educator, man. Like you said, you're at you teach also, and tell
Yeah.
us how you got into that. Is that something that you enjoy doing? And of course, because of COVID, are you teaching courses online?
Yeah. Yeah. No, I love teaching. It's something I've been doing for quite some time privately and at different schools. I taught, well, at my old school, the Wisconsin Conservatory of Music,
Right.
Long Island University, taught a little bit at the New School, and I taught in Holland at the Maastricht Conservatory for about 5 years, flying back and forth doing that.
Hmm.
And uh, yeah, now I'm at Juilliard and I'm here at Oberlin College, Oberlin Conservatory. And I love it. So many people, so many musicians and just people in general helped me along the way,
Mm-hmm.
and are still helping me. I just talked to Rufus Reed the other day about some
I've
things.
had Rufus Reed on the program too. Great guy. Yeah.
Yeah, and I call Ron Carter when I have questions. I call Buster with questions. And I, I just want to help these young bass players find their voice on their instrument, but also at the same time realize what their role is as bass players and learn to really love being accompanists,
Yeah.
love
Yeah.
walking the bass, love
Right.
love playing ballads,
Right.
write a singer, and yeah, and just and just I'm just trying to help these young musicians like people help me.
Mm-hmm. Hey, I wanted to do something, sort of play almost like a name or word association with you. I'm going to name some bass players, and just tell me the first thing that comes to your mind. Paul
Okay.
Chambers.
Quarter note, feel, sound, solo, elegance,
Yeah, yeah, I like that. Yeah, um,
finesse,
yeah. Jimmy Garrison.
soul, soul, creativity,
Mm,
swing, deep, deep sound,
yeah. Ron Carter.
elegance, control, finesse, um, creative. Man, I could go on about Ron Carter forever. Genius,
Yeah. Bus, Bu-
scientist.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Scientist, that's a good one. Buster Williams.
Creative, the creative giant. Um, uh, Geez, I could think of so many things. Improvisation,
Mhm.
swing, sound, tone, wood. Just, you know, he's like, I don't want to say Picasso, but he's like an artist. Art. You
Mm,
hear Buster play, that's pure like art.
yeah, yeah. I got a couple more for you. Charles Mingus.
I'm scared of Charles Mingus still. Okay, I've studied him. I played in the Mingus big band for a little bit. Mingus is just like,
What a composer, man.
yeah, I was gonna say composition, arranging, you know, is melodic, sound, you know,
Mm,
time, feel, just yeah, it's a lot,
yeah. And last but not least, Reggie Workman.
sound, color, tone, um, finesse,
Yeah,
strength.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
You know, I'm going to add just one more to that. Gerald Cannon.
Oh man, I don't know. Humble, humility.
I like that, man. You're a fantastic musician all around. Like I said, composer, visual artist. You do it all. Now, I was going to ask you this, Gerald. If I were to come over to your house right now, man, and you and I were just to sit back and chill, talk
Mhm.
a little bit, and who are you listening to right now? What music artist? I mean, it could be something old or new. If I were to come over and you got your iPod or 6 CD change or whatever on, who are you listening to right now, man? What artists are you checking out?
Sam Jones, as I always do.
Yeah.
You forgot to mention him.
Yeah, yeah. I was about to mention him, Slam Stewart. There were a bunch of names, but I just, I don't want to give you too many. But
Yeah,
yeah.
no. Sam Jones. I'm listening a lot to Dave Holland. I'm
Oh, Dave
listening.
Holland.
I mean, that's excuse me, not Dave Holland, but that I meant Charlie Hayden. I'm
Oh yeah.
listening a lot to Bob Cranshaw, the
Yes, the late Bob.
unsung
Yes.
hero. A lot to him, and of course Ron Carter, Doug Watkins.
Mm.
Gary Peacock. I love a
Oh, Gary
lot.
Peak. Yes, yes.
I
Who
like
is
him
that?
back. Monty Budwig.
Monty Budwig. And there's another bass player. You know who I'm talking about. He died like in 1960. He was really, really young. Fantastic bassist, African American bassist. I can't think of his name. It slips my mind. Uh, mm, yeah,
Was it Doug
Pastor.
Watkins? No.
What's that?
Doug Watkins?
No, not Doug. Not Doug. I can't think of his name to save my life. He passed in 1959 or 1960. He's a
Hmm.
really well-known bassist, but it slips my mind at the moment. But it probably will end up coming to me. But let me ask you a question. What are some of your plans as far as, of course, getting through this COVID? What are you working on now? Are you working on any projects, or are we going to see some new releases coming out with you probably sometime next year?
Yeah, I'm planning on doing my next record. And now I'm going back and forth of whether I had planned on doing a trio record,
Yeah.
just a trio record, and then things got a little weird and COVID came up. And so now I'm replanning it, and now I'm thinking more along the lines of either quartet or quintet again. I
Mm.
just like horns, but I don't know. It might be a trio record. It would definitely um, be Kenny Barron probably on piano if he had to do it
What a
again. He was on my
pianist.
last record, and
Interesting.
yeah,
Hmm.
and he's
I was gonna I was gonna ask you, Jared, real quick. Have you ever considered putting out a solo piece, just solo bass, just bass? I know Ron Carter and a couple guys have done that, but it'd be interesting to hear you in that type of setting, man.
yeah. I mean, I have a studio in my house, so I record myself solo all the time, and I have a few things that I recorded and that I would love to do that again. I mean, to do just complete solo record, but I don't know if this is in the cards right now. You know, but you never know.
Yeah.
You never know. I mean, things change.
Yeah. Now, do you check out electric bass players? What do you think of people like Marcus Miller, Jaco Pastorius, Stanley Clark, Victor Wooten?
Man, yeah, Marcus Miller he's a good friend of mine.
Yeah.
And he's ridiculous. Victor Wooten's a freak of nature.
Yeah.
Yeah, I check out electric bass. I mean, I don't play as much. My chops aren't anywhere
Yeah.
near than what they were.
Right.
But I love electric bass, and I
Yeah.
like funk, and I like the things that they're doing. Yeah.
That's good stuff, man. That's good stuff. Well, Gerald, listen, man, I want to thank you so much for being on Jazz Talk. It's been an honor to have you on the show. Hang on, I'm about to close out the show.
Okay.
Well, you've heard it from the great Gerald Cannon. And as the saying goes, if the music grooves and makes you move, it must be jazz. I'm Preston Williams with Jazz Talk signing off. Peace.